Rap news, street politics, the best hood channel on YouTube, and we back with some more dangerous content coming out the harbor area of Los Angeles. Now, for everybody not familiar with the harbor area, there's neighborhoods and cities that make up this whole area, just south of spots like Compton and Gardena. But we gotta take y'all near the largest port in North America, San Pedro, and the neighborhoods that surround it in the 1-5 district. Now, the 1-5 district encompasses neighborhoods in LA City like Watts, San Pedro, Wilmington, Harbor City, and Harbor Gateway. And one thing is for sure, this area is not a game and nothing to play with in this situation down here. Now, we know recently, this month, October 2025, the feds was down here with another RICO that they call Operation Wipeout in San Pedro. And we know the feds have been performing multiple operations throughout the city of LA and on the outskirts, taking a lot of these hoods down. But the thing about this harbor area between Wilmington, Harbor City, and San Pedro, there seems to be an indictment every 2 to 3 years on these hoods down here because they got it going up. And it all stems from the ties that these hoods have to the Mexican Mafia. Now, it's a lot of names that's been produced from different sections over here. We know it's about 140 to 150 documented MA members currently right now. But over the years, it's said that the harbor area has had 12 documented members of the Mexican Mafia coming out of these hoods. 4 of those members from Rancho San Pedro, one of those being Stoney, somebody who's well documented and still in good standing with the Mexican Mafia. 7 of those guys being from Wilmas. Now, we know Wilmas is broken up into Northside, Eastside, and Westside. Notable names coming out the Wilmas: Raul Molina, who had a hand in one of these indictments we finna go through, as well as also having allegations of being the reason Money Sign Suede got touched behind them walls. Gabriel Sleepy Huerta, aka The Professional, for a murder that he pulled off in Tehachapi that his homies deemed to be a professional move, coming out of Eastside Wilmas. We also got Emiliano Tonito Lopez, also from Eastside Wilmas. His homies pressed play on his ass in Calipat when they found out his wife was wearing a wire and recording MA business. We also got Frank Lil Man Munoz from the Wilmas, who was also backdoored by his homies, taking shells when they ran up on him in Hawaiian Gardens for being too greedy in the streets. And his murder also brought a federal indictment out on a Mexican Mafia lawyer named Gabriel Chavez, who the feds allege was using his power of confidentiality as a lawyer to pass communications with different MA members, some of which resulted in the death of Frank Lil Man Munoz. Now, these are just a few names that may ring bells, and these are some of the folks that's keeping the feds circling through the harbor area. Now, the hot spots over here, starting with the Westside Wilmas, they going from PCH all the way down to C Street between Fig and Avalon. Now, these dudes over here, you may also see them in association with the Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, and repping that 2300 block. But the main spot over here, Will Hall Park, Bayview Avenue. Over recent years, Bayview Avenue has seen 3 different double homicides damn near in the same spots on this street. We're gonna speak on 2 brothers who were both killed in double shootings at separate events in the same spot on Bayview Avenue, both from Westside Wilmas. 2 16-year-old girls killed in 2 separate double shootings, one of which was trying to hide under a truck, and the Westside Wilmas shot her in her head multiple times, and the street saying that she was the actual intended target. This is without a doubt one of the hottest spots in the Westside Wilmas, Bayview Avenue, which has also been compared to Death Alley in South Central down Vermont, with there being 53 homicides in a 5-year time span within a 2-mile radius of this location on Bayview.
Westside gang sliding with this blue rag. I'm surfing waves that they can't bitch for a bag. Man down, yo, come get your man. We playing ball, batter up, we'll hold that. Westside gang sliding with this blue rag. I'm surfing waves that they can't bitch for a bag. Man down, bitch, come get your man. We playing ball, batter up, we'll hold that.
Now, the Eastside Wilmas is known to be the deeper out of the 3 Wilmas hoods, and they known to rock that red rag. And the crazy thing, even though they got the same name, Eastside and Westside Wilmas have a deadly back and forth war with each other, and Eastside Wilmas is also beefing it with Northside Wilmas. But Eastside Wilmas is going from Lomita all the way down to Anaheim, bordering Avalon all the way to Alameda, with the middle of their hood being PCH. But the main blocks over here, L Street, Hyatt, Mahar Street, and with that L Street clique, they wearing them St. Louis Cardinal hats. If y'all want to come over here and make sure you know what's going on when you in Wilmington, that's what y'all got to look out for.
We my city say Jay's most hated. City where the maniacs are no stay dangerous. We be flamed up, but it's a red rag too thing. Anybody tripping on the game, we could run fast.
Now, Northside Wilmas is just above Lomita and right up under Scottsdale Piru, between Sepulveda and Lomita and Main Street and Wilmington. They hotspots is around Lincoln and Sepulveda, 246th Street. They are down Avalon, and they're beefing heavy with Eastside Wilmas. But one thing these hoods do have in common is they beefing with Harbor City Rifa. Now, HXCR is right across the 110 between Anaheim and Lomita, a little bit north of Lomita up Normandy, and also between Western and Vermont. But the main spots over here, 255th Street, Harbor Village, Normandy Ave, 254th, 252nd and Marigold, 253rd and Petroleum. Them apartments on 252nd, the apartments on Normandy is going up in this section. They also share their hood with Harbor City Crip. Now, there used to be a project building right here called Normont Terrace. This was the first project in LA that was tore down in 1996, and they made Harbor Village out of it. They wanted to move the gangbanging out these projects, but all it did was spread it out in the surrounding areas, directly outside the projects. And what we seen over here recently, the Eastside Wilmas went on a triple homicide, two of which happened over here on 253rd Street and Marigold. And we gonna speak about what happened when the Eastside Wilmas caught Silos, his baby mama, and a 1-year-old child over here late night on foot. Now, all these hoods out here do have specific identifiers with the rag that they pushing. So with Westside Wilmas, we see them with that blue rag. Eastside Wilmas pushing that red rag. Northside Wilmas with that brown rag. And Harbor City rocking that purple rag. The Lomas are also out here as well. Harbor City Lomas pushing the red rag. And I've seen Rancho San Pedro pushing CK also with that red rag and saying blood. And of course, all these hoods over here is beefing with Rancho San Pedro, which on the map seems like it's far away, but these hoods are really only minutes away from each other.
Claim he want the smoke, he ended up dead, and I ain't never fear no man, cause we all bleed the same, and when I close my eyes to go to sleep, I still see their face.
Now, Rancho San Pedro is controlling the project that they share with Dodge City down here in San Pedro. The projects are also called Rancho San Pedro. Now, a lot of people talk about these federal indictments and what they spelling out for the city with the Olympics and all that shit playing out. But the thing is, the housing authority and the major apartment developers want to take this shit over because a lot of these apartment buildings are in prime real estate area. Rancho San Pedro is right on the water at the largest port in North America. You gotta conceptualize that. These niggas is gangbanging at a spot where a lot of money is being made at in the country. The people don't want that, and they've been trying to move Rancho San Pedro and Dodge City out these projects. And as we see, we're gonna speak on countless indictments where the feds keep trying to move these dudes and they just not going. Now, surrounding the projects, there are some nice apartment buildings, and these housing developers with the housing authority have invested $3 billion in trying to push these dudes out of the projects. Now, before making this video, I've never actually been to San Pedro. I've been in all these other hoods, but San Pedro is so far off the map that I never had a reason to go. Before this video, we slid over here to the projects, and what we notice is San Pedro is pushing CK, beefing with Dodge City, but it's a lot of black and brown residents that are coinciding over here, living together inside and outside these projects. Now, the main spots over here, Santa Cruz Street, 3rd Street, 16th Street. Dodge City has the 2nd Street mob on 2nd Street inside the projects. And this is where the feds settled October 7th of this year, 2025, where the feds targeted 14 members of Rancho San Pedro who were doing a whole lot of shit at the direction of the Mexican Mafia.
13 arrests, 17 locations around San Pedro, hundreds of local and federal officers on the ground, all part of an early morning raid targeting the Rancho San Pedro, or RSP gang.
These individuals who have wreaked havoc in the communities for many, many years.
The gang, with about 500 members according to authorities, includes men and women and reports and pays taxes to the Mexican Mafia.
Now, the key thing about this indictment that the feds call Operation Wipeout, the feds be trying to get smart with releasing this paperwork. So we seen everybody go down on camera. They was kicking doors in, the feds was on Gafey, they was everywhere throughout San Pedro, gaffling everybody up. But when it came to the paperwork, they slow leaked it for various reasons. Number one, there were 50 people a part of and associated with Rancho San Pedro that sat down and had interviews with the feds and got to talking. The feds say that disclosure of certain documents too fast could put the people that's snitching at risk. And they also are watching the internet. They saying other criminals are searching criminal affidavits and search warrants via the internet and disseminate them to other criminals that they deem appropriate. They post them publicly online and through forums. And they said that has a significant and negative impact on their investigation and may jeopardize people's lives. But we got the paperwork on Rap News Street Politics though. And it's jumping off with Salvatore Nania, aka Crook, from 16th Street, who was already sitting down behind the walls for a murder in 1997. And he was said to be running things with Salvador Perez, aka Smokey, over here in and outside the projects. So we know how the feds play. They do the usual, using wiretaps, confidential informants, poll cameras, recording devices, vehicle trackers, and undercover purchases to really come down hard on Rancho San Pedro and all the hoods that be in federal indictments. Now, this is the third federal indictment that Rancho San Pedro has came under since 2011. There was the one in 2011, one in 2019. Here we are in 2025. The feds still trying to move these dudes around, but they not going. Now, Smokey and Crook were caught on multiple wiretaps in regards to their position as associates from the Mexican Mafia. Now, that's the key thing here because the Mexican Mafia has documented members. Like I said, there's only about 140 to 150 actual members of the Mexican Mafia, but they have a wide range of associates who also have secretaries and different levels of hierarchy within the structure, but not everybody is going to be actual full-fledged members of La M. And the same holds true for Crook and Smokey, mere associates of the Mexican Mafia, but taking directives from La M. Now, other people that played large roles in this indictment was Dizzy, aka Angelica Wirtz, from that Locos clique. The key thing about Rancho San Pedro, they have 6 different cliques, 2 of which are female cliques, one being the Locos, the other being the Malditas, and the 4 other cliques are the Locos, 3rd Street, 16th Street, and Santa Cruz. Now, Dizzy, just like most other females, serve as conduits from the pen to the streets and secretaries to dudes that are either in the Mexican Mafia or associates to the Mexican Mafia. It's always good to have a little female around, and there's gonna be multiple that we about to speak on throughout the harbor area that communicate shit from the pen to the streets and have a hand in making sure the hood is running right. We also got David Titus, criminal, from that 3rd Street clique. Jose Castro, aka Rojo. Victor Rodriguez from that Santa Cruz clique, aka Shadow. These are some of the main players that the feds put their eye on who were running around San Pedro, putting the squeeze on the streets. Now, to start everything off, it said that Crook and Smokey were supplying a lot of dudes in the pen with cell phones, making sure everybody stayed in communication. In this complaint, with the indictment not being dropped yet, the complaint usually has a little more details in it opposed to the indictment going straight through naming off charges and overt acts. Now, of course, with everything being alleged, these dudes still got to have their day in court. So these are just allegations that the feds have set forth. They said they spent a lot of time recovering cell phones. Even if the cell phone is deleted, y'all got to pay attention. The feds are explaining how things that are deleted from a phone can still be recovered months or years after they're deleted. Some of y'all gonna fall into this trick bag with having too much on that phone and thinking y'all know what y'all doing with keeping it around. The feds are plotting on this, and this is how they opened up these investigations on Rancho San Pedro. Now, with Crook sitting in Centinela and Smokey sitting in Kern Valley, the feds had all day to sit on these phones with these dudes. and they were communicating with Shadow from Santa Cruz and Leopoldo Rodriguez, aka Camel, who were outside in the projects as their shot callers in person to the streets. One of the main foot soldiers they was trying to get to was Criminal, David Titus. Now this dude was doing a whole lot. He was falling in and out of favor with his homies, and they was trying to backdoor this man. One thing that had him under scrutiny that the feds watched him doing is trapping in the Westside Wilmas at the Right Step Hotel, which is off of Anaheim and Watson, again, in a Enemigo hood. Criminal, being a member of 3rd Street, was low-key seeming like a crash out. And even though he was out there performing for Smokey and Shadow, they set up a plan to kidnap and rob him on September 28, 2024. Now the feds had intercepted a wiretap where they was talking about this move with another dude named Seiko, aka Jesse Lopez. Shadow had instructed Seiko to go with suspect Renee Balanzar from that Locos clique and get up on Criminal because they felt like he was doing too much in the Westside Wilmas. Now, one common thing we see the feds do when they hear somebody getting plotted on like this is an opportunity for them to jump in, play Captain Save-A-Ho, and try to flip somebody into being an informant. They ran the Criminal mama house in Carson and tried to let him know, like, hey, your homie's finna backdoor you. He wasn't there. They ended up talking to his mom about the situation, but Criminal wasn't hearing none of that shit. He stayed down in the hood. And 2 months later, they caught him on a wiretap, staying true to the program, telling somebody how Smokey runs San Pedro and everybody knows how to follow the program with him. So he was out here trying to be a solid soldier for the set, even though they was trying to knock this nigga off, which is something that we see is common between the Mexican Mafia and Southside hoods in general. Regardless of your standing, they will take your ass out with consistent mistakes. Now, this indictment showed the real divide that Smokey and Crook had in the hood. They basically had their own little teams. Smokey dealing with Shadow, Criminal, Seiko, Suspect, and Crook dealing with his secretary, Dizzy, aka Angelica Wirtz, to get that shit done and that money sent up top. So Dizzy, again, a part of that Locos clique, was collecting taxes from everybody in the hood, sending that money to Crook, and of course Crook passing it on past him to them members. But not only was she collecting taxes from members in the hood, she was also extorting weed shops. And the feds caught her on wiretap talking about when she put Shadow and Suspect onto her game when Suspect got out from doing a shooting where he was trying to take out somebody from Westside Wilmas. She was trying to put Suspect on his feet, being that he was fresh out, gave him the game on how to extort weed shops, but made the caveat that he gotta send some money up top to Crook. Suspect first started doing it with her, learn the game, and then put his homie Shadow on, and they formed their own little crew. This is where Dizzy, staying loyal to Crooks, felt the type of way that Suspect basically took the game and ran with it. Now, she was low-key somebody not to play with. Pretty in the face, but she was out here doing some shit and dealing with them members. She was mad that Suspect cut her and Crook out and wasn't paying his taxes to the hood like he should have been. He probably was pinching and splitting most of his proceeds with Smokey, who was sitting down, and passing it on to whoever he was fucking with in Kern Valley. Now, Suspect had told her that he didn't want to fuck around with sending money to Crooks anymore because Crook had pretty much pinched his whole sack off, leaving him with crumbs for him and Shadow to split. And this is where the feds catch Dizzy on the wiretap talking about how she really tapped in with them members and them guys, and Suspect and Shadow need to stop playing games with their money. This is what I'm talking about with this backdoor shit. It's a lot of jealousy, insatiable greed that goes on between these members. All they caring about is this money, and this is where the feds thrive off of. Business stays running around the clock with these Southsider hoods because it's always money to be made. So Dizzy had it in her mind eventually they was gonna end up having to put the squeeze on Suspect and Shadow if that money didn't turn right between her and Crook. But February of this year, February 10th, 2025, the feds caught her doing some whole other shit, impersonating a federal officer, pulling up to somebody's house as if she was a special agent with the FBI, had pulled a gun out, tried to kick they dough in to rob them. She was out here trying to get that money for her and Crook, man, doing her shit. And this was a role that a lot of these females be playing, that somewhat secretary role, like I was saying, in these hoods. She's not the first and won't be the last. Now, like I said, suspect, who's a part of that Locos clique, was down on an attempted murder on a dude from Westside Wilmas. And he's back out, jumped right into a federal investigation, trying to get his feet wet in this shit. He was the one Shadow tried to use with Seiko to kidnap and rob criminal. But suspect had it in his mind that he was gonna bring that strap. So you know what it was finna turn into. But the feds ended up kicking in his door, seizing guns and drugs, and he was in possession of a 380 that was connected to a shooting again. He was already out after an attempted murder on the Westside Wilmas, so he fell into some bullshit as soon as he hit the streets again. Now at the same time, the feds is watching Dizzy, Suspect, and Criminal run around San Pedro, Shadow and Camel. Again, Camel is also a shot caller out here. Got Rojo, who was serving as a drug broker, also plotting on backdooring other Rancho San Pedro members. December 12, 2024, Rojo and Camel discussed kidnapping a Rancho San Pedro member who was cooperating with them people and that snitched on stash spots. On the initial conversation, it was just a kidnapping. Somehow, some way, it turned into them talking about telling the police on this dude, snitching on their homie, man, and trying to pin him with some guns and drugs. I guess they figured out that wasn't gonna work, and they ultimately just conspired to kill this dude. And again, the feds heard this, and this is when they stepped in. They located the dude they was trying to kidnap, tipped him off, and he got his ass out the way. But Jose Castro, 3 days later, was on the phone talking about kidnapping somebody who was in possession of some explicit child content, some nasty shit. A dude also from Rancho San Pedro, and they spoke about having him whacked. But Shadow was already putting the squeeze on Rojo because he had fronted somebody a P and they didn't come back with that money on time. Shadow used Seiko the same way Smokey was using Seiko and had Seiko confiscate Rojo's guns until dude paid up for that P that was fronted. So as you can see, the feds sat back and was watching a lot of shit going on in Rancho San Pedro. And this is when the feds start kicking in more doors and putting tracking devices on cars to make sure they had tabs on everybody. They threw a tracking device on Shadow's car, and they set up a pole camera at Joseph Giacco's crib, Spanky from 16th Street. Now, Spanky was outside getting cracking on his enemies, and he was getting cracking on the police. When they were surveillance in his crib, before they kicked the door in, the feds say 2 people came out of Spanky house and start cracking on the police, getting them off the block and shutting down their surveillance on his house. Now, you know, it was only a matter of time until they kicked that door in after they caught Spanky on a wiretap talking about guns he had with another member that was sitting down in Solano. Of course, the guns were recovered and Spanky goes down. Now the feds start plucking people off, sitting them down one by one until they had enough to build this whole complaint on Rancho San Pedro for 2025. But with Rancho San Pedro having approximately 500 members in their hood, it's always gonna be the next man up mentality over here in the projects and outside the projects. But this is what brought the feds to San Pedro 3 weeks ago. Now, like I said, the feds stay in the harbor area. There were multiple Wilmas indictments in between this time, but the last Rancho San Pedro indictment was in 2019, 6 years prior to Operation Wipeout, where the feds had Robert Messersmith, aka Stretch, Lil Striker Jr., another Shadow, Flacco, Trigger, and some other members of Rancho San Pedro was running multiple bars and night spots, moving dope out of them over here in San Pedro. Now they say Stretch this time was running things at the control of 3 other Mexican Mafia members, and they was trapping out the Barton Hill Hotel right off Pacific, which is shut down now. I believe all the spots they was trapping out of was shut down. The Enigma, Augie's Tavern, the feds came through in 2019, shut their whole operation down. Here they are 6 years later, doing it again. But the usual shit was here. Stretch was plotting on backdooring other homies from Rancho San Pedro at the instruction of the Mexican Mafia, and they were moving meth, heroin, oxy, and powder out of these dope spots in San Pedro. And the feds hit Stretch with 10 years and came down hard on RSP.
Dead homies, wolves, scan live straight on the set. Hey, where the waffles at, nigga? Dead homies, nigga. Where the waffles at, nigga? On the set. Where the stoners, donuts, where all the ops at, nigga? We outside, nigga. Scan the street.
But in between these indictments, we see the gunplay and some bold murders taking place between these hoods in the harbor area. So right before their 2019 indictment, Rancho San Pedro had pressed play in the Westside Wilmas on Bayview Avenue, the hottest block in their hood. And on March 18, 2018, they killed Cesar Gutierrez and 18-year-old Joseph Duarte, aka Slumps. Both of them dudes were from Westside Wilmas, outside with some friends, broad daylight, over here on Bayview. And a year after that, his brother, Alex Gutierrez, aka Biggie, was in the same spot on the same block in the Westside Wilmas. He was also from Westside Wilmas, 800 block of Bayview Avenue. He loses his life in a double homicide with a 16-year-old girl named Melissa Lopez. 2 years, 2 murders, 2 brothers, and 2 other victims caught in the crossfire over here in the Westside Wilmas on Bayview. And the second double homicide was said to be the work of Eastside Wilmas. Now, while the feds are watching Rancho San Pedro during this 2025 indictment, they also in Wilmington with a 2023 indictment on the Wilmas, Operation Safe Harbor. Now, 27 people went down in connection with Laime and a Mexican cartel providing dope to the streets in the harbor area, and the Wilmas was at the center of it. Now, 2023 was a hot year. It was 3 gang busts that went down that year in the harbor area, 1 in February, 1 in May, and here we go in October with Operation Safe Harbor with nearly 30 arrests. Now, the key thing we see that come out the Wilmas, these dudes got that heavy artillery coming out of it. February 2023, they had 40 ghost guns, 20 assault weapons, and a significant amount of fentanyl, meth, and cocaine straight from Eastside Wilmas. In May, the same type of haul went down in the Westside Wilmas. And because of those raids in the early 2023, there was a 26% reduction in crime in Wilmington at that time. But the feds stepped in because they was watching the Wilmas since 2020 when Raul Molina, documented member of the Mexican Mafia, sitting in prison on an LWOP for murder, was said to be running things from his prison cell. In October 2022, the feds got a confidential informant who was also sitting in prison on a murder and started cooperating for reconsideration on his sentence. He got the feds in communication via WhatsApp to Raul Molina. Now, the confidential informant was in need of a connect. Of course, he wanted to plug the feds in to the guns and the drugs coming out the Wilmas hood. And this is when Raul plugs him in with Daniel Nunez, aka Speedy, from Westside Wilmas. But check this out, Speedy's on death row, charged with killing a black couple in a racially charged attack back in 1998. Now, the undercover officer sparks off the conversation with Speedy via WhatsApp, asking him if is he gonna plug him in with the right people and not fuck him over. Speedy, off the bat, replies he's in good hands. It's gonna be no funny business because he's plugged in with Laime. And this is where over the next 5 months, the undercover officers are working the streets, buying guns and drugs throughout the harbor area from the Wilmas at the instruction of Raul Molina and Speedy. Now, similar to Rancho San Pedro, with Dizzy being a secretary for Crooks, Patricia Limon, aka Trish, is serving as a secretary for Speedy, making sure everything he calls from that WhatsApp is going through on the streets in the harbor area. And this is when she starts dealing exclusively with undercover officers, and the feds implement confidential source number 2, a female who was outside gangbanging, working for the feds strictly for monetary value. And it said that at the time that the feds came through, she had made about 13 racks buying shit off Trish and other members of the Wilmas. Now, other people from different hoods were also dealing with the Wilmas, and that's what we see from a lot of these Southsider hoods, man. They dealing with a lot of other people under that 13. We know these Southside hoods is widespread throughout the city, and they deal with each other through connections to make sure that money is going up top to everybody sitting down. But we also know that they have a bond with white supremacist groups like the Aryan Brotherhood and other dudes behind them walls that's pushing that white power. And this is where Trish brings in somebody named Chip, who the feds allege is an associate of a white supremacist gang. Now, Lake Dave Paisley is somewhat of a typical white dude in the LA area. He looks regular on the outside, dealing with that shit on the back end, and he got himself involved with Trish and Speedy sitting on death row, and now he's selling fentanyl pills to undercover feds in Wilmington. When he pulls up to the deal with the feds like, hold on, who is that? They snap pictures of him and take his face card back to other confidential sources in the area, and they confirm that's Chip. And now Chip, again an associate of a white supremacist group, is wrapped in with the Wilmas on the feds' radar. Now these dudes was moving heavyweight bags of multicolored fentanyl. We know them blues, they had all kind of different colors in pounds going straight to the feds. But not only that, Jesse Delgado, aka Yogi, and Cristobal Aguilar, aka Stalker, were bringing heavy artillery, heavy gunplay to the feds. And when you see these guns, the feds have pictures of everything that the Wilmas was giving them. Just imagine if this is what they got for sale, imagine what they got for their enemigos. But the key thing is Stalker wasn't from Wilmas. The feds say he was from Burlington boys. Now the feds do be fucking up in this paperwork with little shit like this, man. I believe they meant Burlington locals over there by that Pico Union Westlake area. This is where Stalker was from, but he's over here in Wilmington, right along with Yogi, serving that big shit that's knocking people down out here on these streets to the feds. Now, Yogi already had a full track record of dealing with guns. His rap sheet went all the way back to the 90s. All of it had to do with firearms and guns. So this dude out on parole at this time, serving guns to the feds in the back of his apartment building, still ain't learned his lesson over here in the Wilmas. And this is how the feds put the squeeze on them dudes in 2023. But the big fish in Operation Safe Harbor, Raul Molina, for one, is said to have a questionable status right now in La M based off some internal conflict that he got going on with a few other members. And he was also under investigation and implicated in what went on with Money Sign Suede behind them walls. But again, what goes along with these federal indictments, these dudes are still on the street gangbanging. And this is what takes us to 253rd and Marigold, September 4th, 2023, over here in Westside Harbor City, Rifa Hood. Monday night, 6:30.
Marks after dark, Harbor Park, nigga. No marks after dark. And for Shy said it, nigga. Harbor Park, no mark.
Carlos Leora, aka Silos, gangbanging from Harbor City 13, sitting in the car on 253rd with his baby mama, 18-year-old Ashley Guzman, and a 1-year-old child in the back seat. They say the Eastside Wilmas slid down PCH west to the 110, banged her right on Vermont, headed towards 252nd. And they allege 20-year-old Dion Johnson from Eastside Wilmas got out on foot, approached Silos, and started getting off over here on 253rd and Marigold, killing Silos and killing his baby mama, Ashley Guzman, as well as hitting the 1-year-old baby in the process. Now, luckily, the baby survived. The car seat slowed the velocity of the bullet down, and it was not a triple homicide that played out over here, but it was a double. September 4th, 2023, Eastside Wilmas getting cracking on their enemies in their enemigo hood. Like I said, 252nd, Normandy, 255th is the main block over here with HXCR. But from Lomita to PCH down Normandy, it's heavily patrolled over here by HXCR. Marigold, Petroleum, Harbor Village, all back here is popping. And the Wilmas knew where to go. But Dion Johnson was not done. 3 weeks after he does this shit in HXCR hood, allegedly, he's in Park Western Lomas. Now, the Lomas are over here in Harbor City. I didn't get a chance to hit they blocks, but I have seen they do have activity and membership over here in the harbor area. There's 2 different Lomas hoods, Southside Harbor Lomas, and there's Park Western Lomas in Northwest San Pedro. Now, I believe this is the same Lomas hood in Monterey Park, San Gabriel Valley. I've been over there in them dudes' hoods, but I haven't been to the Lomas Hoods over here. But right on Park Western Drive, allegedly Deion Johnson comes through here at the end of a party. Now, Park Western Lomas is beefing with Rancho San Pedro. I'm sure they beefing with the Wilmas, and the Harbor Lomas is for sure beefing with Harbor City Rifa. I see Harbor City whacking out the L's and the E's when they hitting up. But on September 30th, 17-year-old Joseph Saldana, 2 a.m. coming out of party off Park Western. Allegedly, Deion Johnson takes his life, marking the third homicide under Deion belt in 3 weeks over here in the Harbor area. But check this, he still wasn't done. October 2nd, 3 days later, he shot another man in Wilmington, looking for them Westside Wilmas, but didn't take his life. And he goes down for 3 murders, 5 attempts. I think the bail was originally set at like 13 million or some shit like that. You know he's not getting out. But again, these are just allegations. But when you shooting young couples, especially young mothers, children, this shit is bad, man. Like I said at the beginning of this video, the Harbor area, nothing to play with.
Where the boners at, nigga?
Rancho gang, nigga.
Oh, Rancho gang, nigga. I got a boner right now, nigga. Where the boners at?
Here, nigga.
Say, nigga.
Now, you know, with all this shit going on in Wilmington, just like San Pedro, the Wilmas, multiple indictments over the years. Like I said previously, every couple years, the feds is coming to squeeze one of these hoods in the Harbor area. They don't let this shit go on too long because the shit gets crazy over here, man. You know, the Wilmas are the hood that at one point have known to have the most Mexican Mafia members actually inducted into this shit, man. Actually calling shots and running programs. This area, not talked about a lot, but you see the people that's coming out of here, and they went stupid in Operation Tidal Wave. 2016, the feds was all over Frank Lil Man Munoz, Lawrence Kelly, aka Puppet, Armando Soriano, aka Mando, Jesus Ortigoza, aka Chewy, as well as Emiliano Tonito Lopez and Gabriel Sleepy the Professional Huerta. All of these dudes had the feds running wild with Operation Tidal Wave in 2016. Now at this time, Wilmington said they suffered a substantial amount of murders and blamed the Wilmas for it. You know, all 3 of these hoods are at war, but the focus of this indictment in 2016 was Eastside and Westside, both of them on one indictment. They didn't say anything about Northside, and they really didn't too much focus on the beef between these hoods. These hoods have been beefing for a long time. The Wilmas in all has been around since the 1950s, predates Rancho San Pedro, who came about in the 70s. And the feds allege in this indictment that the Wilmas were targeting African Americans for coming into the communities over here. They didn't want nobody setting up shop and creating no hoods over here. And it said that they were targeting regular residents who were African American just for being in Wilmington. Now, there are 2 African American hoods in Wilmington, but they're not that big at all, man. I don't know how active both of these hoods are. Ghost Town Bloods, I think technically they rock Carson, but they over here by the Wilmas and the Waterfront Pyrus in the Westside Wilmas. Again, I don't think them 2 hoods is that active because the Wilmas have a stronghold in Wilmington. It is what it is. But the shit started off with this indictment with the Wilmas shooting it out with the police. March 13, 2008, Wilmas shot at the LAPD. April 2nd, 2008, David Sedilla from Wilmas fired at the LAPD and hit one in the chest, went down for an attempt. January 31st, 2012, LAPD was said to be patrolling in the Wilmas hood. Westside Wilmas members banged on them and barricaded themselves in when they spun the block on them and had a shootout with them behind the barricade. In February 13, 2013, Westside Wilmas has shot another officer trying to get away in a stolen vehicle. So all these incidents were putting spotlights in the Wilmas hoods. Multiple shootings over the course of multiple years, showing that disregard is gonna bring them people out in a strong way. And that's what it did. But the Wilmas already had injunctions from 2001 and 2004 in their hood. But the situation that turned it up was Frank Lil Man Munoz. He was initially the lead defendant on this indictment. He had got out from doing 23 years out the feds on a bank robbery hit Wilmington as an inducted member into the Mexican Mafia. He wanted a piece of the pie, and when he hit the streets, he found out quick that Sleepy and Tonito were the ones in charge. Now, it's said that Sleepy had granted him access to move around and do his shit, collecting tax money, making his own chili out of Gardena. Now, there was also a dude named Capone from Pasadena Via Boys who was out here collecting taxes, and they just basically said, look, you and Capone do your shit. Capone not gonna tax none of the homies, but don't fuck this up. Don't step on too many people's toes. But you know, this is a storyline. This is movie-esque shit right here. Frank Munoz just gets out from 23. He sees some other dudes that he may not deem as valid that are sitting behind the walls, running his set. Eventually, that shit was gonna come to a head. But at this time, there was 4 members in La M. Let's not forget Raul Molina is still here as well. So the Wilmas is having juice. They having a lot of power in the city, and nobody's really hearing about it unless you're paying attention. But the conduits that were serving as the vessels from the pen to the streets was Puppet, Mando, Chewy. And everything seems to be running accordingly. Frank Munoz isn't tripping too much. Everybody seems to be getting their money until the spotlight hit the city, February 26, 2012. On Bayview Avenue, again, the hot block in them Westside Wilmas by Will Hall Park, a 16-year-old couple were walking down Bayview, 7 p.m. 16-year-old Carolina Ramirez and 16-year-old Meldrick Melgoza, man. Now, I don't know if Meldrick Melgoza was gangbanging, if he was claiming Wilmas or whatever he was doing, man. These are still children. And this is a little girl as well, walking down Bayview. And at the time of this murder, within the last 5 years, it had been 53 homicides within 2 miles of this exact same spot where these 2 teens lost their lives. But it said that the Westside Wilmas got up on these 2, shot Meldrick Melgoza, killing him, while Carolina Ramirez attempted to hide up under a truck. Westside Wilmas ends up shooting her multiple times in the head on Bayview Avenue. And in 6 years, there went on to be 3 double homicides in this same spot. And this turned the shit up and glued a lot together for the feds. But it didn't stop here. July 22nd, 2012, Westside Wilmas got up on Emmanuel Padilla on the 500 block of Gulf Avenue, inside the alley where they shot him and his homie. But 24-year-old Emmanuel Padilla ended up losing his life when a car pulled up and started getting off 5 months after the double homicide on Bayview Avenue. Now, 6 months later, Westside Wilmas strikes again, killing 18-year-old Eloquent Temblador, hitting him 7 times with 2 9s on Grant and Eubank in the Eastside Wilmas Hood. And this is when Goblin, Baby Largo, and Hazard from Westside Wilmas go down on this homicide. But the feds are tuned in and watching all this shit. Everything's on wiretap, and Frank Munoz is trying to take over the streets in the Wilmas and the whole harbor area. So Mando brings up the fact that they should start dealing with the Sinaloa cartel on the move. But in turn, Frank Munoz wants him to press play on some people out in Rancho San Pedro Hood. So on September 14th, 2013, Mando and Frank Munoz start plotting on the murder of somebody referred to in the paperwork by SM out in Rancho San Pedro. Now, Lil Man, Frank Munoz, wants the murder to be done in broad daylight. He wants it to be messy. He wants Mando to make a scene. And September 15th, the next day after the feds hear the plot on the wiretap, Mando was in San Pedro broad daylight holding 2 pistols like Max Payne and found his target. This is where they shot the dude referred to as SM in San Pedro, and he slides back to Wilmington. Now, the next day after that, Mando locates a snitch who was planning to testify on a murder that the Wilmas had did, and he starts stalking him. Now, while they trying to get up on him, 2 days after that, the feds see they got another plot to kill a female who made statements on Mando in regards to another murder and had his name floating around with implications of him doing some dirt. So Mondo's name is floating around hot in the hood, and he's unsatisfied because that situation in San Pedro didn't result in a full hit. He had only hit the dude SM in the ass, and SM survived them shots, even though Mando had 2 pistols in his hand. Now, in the midst of this whole situation going on, Capone, who's also collecting taxes on behalf of Laime in the harbor area in Long Beach, he goes down for a murder. Frank Munoz sees this as perfect time for him to expand his operations, and he had dreams of cutting out Sleepy and Tonito. But at this time, Sleepy and Tonito have been controlling Wilmington for over a decade at this point. They not trying to get this shit up easy. And that's not how it's done anyways. But this is when Gabriel Chavez, a lawyer that's been working for the Mexican Mafia, is implicated and implemented in this situation. Sleepy and Tonito utilized Chavez to pass a note to Lil Man Frank Munoz telling him to slow your roll. They got word that he was doing too much shit on the streets, trying to squeeze people and somewhat take it over, especially now that Capone from Pasadena Villa Boys is out the way. Now, the feds allege that he had small-time dreams. He was content of doing little shit here and there. The feds say he didn't want to take it over and that he was okay with moving small weight. But when a dude from Northside Longo hit the county, he made claims that Lil Man was trying to take over Long Beach. This is when Lil Man was caught on a recorded line trying to issue this dude to get beat for $500 for speaking on his name in such a way. Now, we all know these county jail phone calls are the main spot where people get caught up at. Tonito was caught on the phone call speaking about business with another individual when he came down for the pen to MCJ to handle some other business.
So, the other day, some fellas told me that he was busted. However, he's not, because recently I was in my neighborhood yesterday, and my homeboy told me that they were drinking at a bar with him. And ran into him. So, I'm thinking, is that a go?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But but be real careful and be real smart about it, okay? Don't let nobody know nothing. Just get one guy, and that's it. Be real careful with that shit. Nobody else needs to be around or know nothing. You know what I'm saying?
They talked about whacking people. They talked about squeezing vendors for taxation, how nobody would miss the vendors if dudes didn't want to pay their tax. You know, doing a lot of chatty-patty shit on that phone call. And before they can handle Frank Munoz, it comes out that Tonito's wife has been wearing a wire, working with the feds and recording MA business. And you know who that's gonna fall on. Emiliano Tonito Lopez had his name on the lista by them people, man. The feds intercepted another phone call where 4 members of the Mexican Mafia had planned Tonito's death, and they executed it in Calipac in what they called the Calipac Car Show, and they showed up and did that to him, taking his life for his wife wearing a wire. July 10th, 2016. 1 member from the Mexican Mafia coming out of Wilmas scratched off the list. But during this time, they were already heavy politicking on Munoz for a situation that played out that he found himself in the middle of for refusing to participate in a move. So Dominic Gonzalez solo jumps out the pen and is hitting the streets, taxing dealers in the San Fernando Valley. He feels like he was owed something out the 818 because the Mexican Mafia had stepped on his stepdad Sapo when he took an L sentence to the feds in 2000. So his stepson Solo was out here doing his shit, trying to collect his money, not giving a fuck about the rules, and ends up getting into it with a dude named Malo, who was a nephew of a Mexican Mafia member. Malo ends up getting whacked, and Solo Gonzalez is to blame. This is when the Mexican Mafia held a 30-man conference call about the fate of Solo Gonzalez. And this is when they offered up Jose Cartoon Loza to carry out the hit on Solo Gonzalez and appointed Frank Lil Man Munoz to go with him and witness it, make sure it's done right. Frank refuses, ends up on the lista. And when Lil Man ended up on the lista, a dude named Robert Dopey Hinojos asked that Gabriel Chavez bring him a note while he's sitting in LA County in regards to the fate of Gonzalez and Munoz. Now, it's alleged that Gabriel Chavez, the lawyer, brought the note to Dopey while he was sitting in the county, and the note had Lil Man and Solo marked for death on it. And they say that Chavez swallowed the note after he showed Dopey. In October 2016, they catch Lil Man from Wilmas at his fiancee crib in Hawaiian Gardens, jump out on that dude and whack him off the list. 2 members from Wilmas taking out this shit for the mistakes that they made against the Mexican Mafia. And Gabriel Chavez, the lawyer, just took a deal last year, dodged prison time surrounding allegations of him using his confidentiality with the bar to communicate and facilitate different movements of the Mexican Mafia, which resulted in the death of Frank Munoz and other illegal dealings that they had going on. Now, of course, Gabriel Chavez said that they threatened his daughter, this, that. It is what it is. But after this, the feds put Puppet as the lead defendant on the superseding indictment after Frank Munoz is taking out this shit. Tonito is gone. That leaves Sleepy the professional in control of this shit in Wilmington after 2 of their people and got whacked. Now, just like all previous indictments, Desiree Hernandez, aka Dimples, was the female of choice in Operation Tidal Wave, doing her shit, answering the Puppet and Mando. The feds used her to prove the racist shit that they were alleging in the document when they caught her on tap talking about how some young Wilmas dudes was on bullshit for hanging with the blacks. Of course, she said the N-word with the hard R, but hanging with the blacks and not being strapped up, basically insinuating that they shouldn't be trusting dudes from black hoods, and they gotta be strapped up when they with these people if they gonna be hanging over there. But she felt like they shouldn't even be hanging with black gangs. But after everybody is whacked, stepped on, murdered, Tonito and Lil Man die, the feds come right after Lil Man loses his life and puts the noose on the Wilmas in 2016. So as you see how these federal indictments is playing out in the city, like I said, even Operation Tidal Wave wasn't the beginning with these hoods. 2011, Operation Pirate Town came through on Rancho San Pedro, where 81 people of RSP went down, and the city started suing property owners, similar to what we seen in the Valley with North Hollywood Locos. Property owners were being sued for allowing members to sell dope and guns in their buildings. And after Operation Pirate Town 2011, more gang injunctions came through. So like I said, the feds really stay in this area. And when you over here, you gonna see the police is hot as hell as well. In San Pedro, the port police is over here by the projects. They crawling all through there, all down Pacific. They down Normandy and Harbor City. And as you can see with the Wilmas, they all over here as well. So this is where it's going down at. But there was a situation that took the city back in 2022 when some Compton Crip hoods was over here at Peck Park, Bottom Park, Western Lomas in Northside San Pedro. They was having a softball game. I know for sure the Santana Blocks was up there. I'm not for sure who was playing in the game. If it was the Santana Blocks and the Carvers, y'all can speak on that. But not only was a softball game going on at Peck Park, there was also a lowrider show up here as well. And it said that about 500 people was in attendance. Shit went bad at the softball game, and the Compton hoods started letting off. And this is where Carlisle Phillips and Tashman Williams both lost their lives over here in San Pedro. Now, after the shooting, 4 guns and 50 shells was found on the ground, with those 2 men losing their lives and 5 other people getting hit in this situation. Now, police arrested 4 people, I know for sure. 2 of them was from Santana Block, and they all got out with the charges dropped on these 2 homicides back on July 24th, 2022. But shit like this has been going down in this San Pedro Harbor area for the last couple years. Earlier this year, at Troy's Burgers on Pacific and 20th, RSP, Rancho San Pedro Hood, July 3rd, 2025, David Archuleta was killed over here at this burger stand. 29-year-old Chris Galindo ended up going down 3 weeks later, and Galindo was for sure a member of Rancho San Pedro. There was another murder recently where an 18-year-old man was killed on 7th and Grand. Again, Rancho San Pedro Hood. Not too long ago, 3 more people were shot not too far outside the projects. 25-year-old man was found breathing but unconscious with a gunshot wound to his head. Another 20-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the leg. And a third victim with a shot to an unknown part of his body, with their members speeding off in a truck late night in San Pedro. Another man was killed on 1st Street in the projects by 1st and Center when some people shot inside the projects and hit him in his head while he was inside his crib. So this is the type of activity that's going on in the harbor area, man. Like I said, this shit is nothing to play with down here. It's not a game. Even though they don't get a lot of airtime, you see what type of members is coming out the south side of the city. Now we gotta say rest in peace to everybody that's lost their lives in these situations. We know it's a lot of tragic events that be going down with this shit, man. And we know this is just how the streets play out sometimes in the city of LA and in every hood throughout the world, man. This is sadly how this shit be going, man. But y'all stay tapped in with the best hood channel on YouTube, Rap News Street Politics. Shout out our subs, shout the members out, members on Patreon and on YouTube. Stay tapped in. We got the new series coming for y'all. We finna feed the streets in a couple different ways, man, and get cracking on the road to 250,000. We appreciate all the love and support, man. We read all the comments. Y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. It's the best hood channel on YouTube. We out.